Have you met about Jokowi before?
No.
Would you like to see him? Will you become a politician someday? If you come back 5 years later? The big change in Indonesia in 1998 we call reformasi. From Suharto regime to a new regime. What do you think about this big change at that time?
Yeah, I think if we look at the Indonesian history since independence, there are two. I mean, there have been many achievements with regard to Indonesia since independence, but I would say there are two achievements that really stick out, and the first one is nation building. How Indonesia managed after independence to really build a unified nation out of a very diverse geographic entity. I mean, before the colonial rule here, there was no Indonesian nation, there was no Indonesian state. So after independence, they really had to build a nation from scratch, and they it was quite a success. I mean, today, I mean, you have like an archipelago with thousands of islands, different ethnicities, many different languages, but from Sumatra to Papua, virtually everyone speaks Indonesian today. The vast majority of people also feel to be citizens of the Indonesian state and of the Indonesian nation. So this is an achievement that is, I would say, quite unique in the world, especially with regard to where Indonesia was coming from, diversity-wise. And I mean, we can see in all of the regions in the world how nation building failed, even in Europe, and what the consequences were. So I think this achievement is really something that sticks out globally with regard to Indonesia. And the second achievement, and that's where I come to your question, is the process of democratization. I mean, Indonesia came out of a decades-long authoritarian era in the late 90s. There was basically no democratic culture or let's say heritage or tradition in Indonesia that they could build upon. But still, Indonesia, both the political system as well as a civil society, they really quickly embraced democracy. And after 20 years now, it's almost 25 years, Indonesia is a stable and thriving democracy. Of course, there are setbacks. I mean, there have always been setbacks. It's always a struggle, and it's still a struggle. But then you have to see that Indonesia is still a very young democracy. So 25 years is not a long time, especially for a country that did not have any kind of democratic tradition before, or not really a democratic tradition. So I think that's quite a success story. And although there are a lot of challenges, this is also a historic achievement and something that I think much more or many more people should learn about. And that's also part of what I think is my job to educate people back in Germany, back in Europe, about these kind of achievements of Indonesia and what this also means for the region and the kind of role that Indonesia plays because of these achievements in Southeast Asia. So and just maybe looking forward, I think the third big achievement could be, or that's maybe the big challenge now, is economic development, because you have built up this unified nation. You have created a stable democracy, and now the next big challenge that's already, of course, been taken on is economic development and developing a strong economy that's not just centered in Java and Jakarta, but that is like economic growth that can be felt all over Indonesia and not just here in Java, and how you can reduce inequality, which is still a great problem here, how you can further decrease poverty in Indonesia. So that will be the big challenge for the next years and decades, and also how you decarbonize the economy that is still very much relying on coal. And there has been a lot of progress being made under the Jokowi government, and well, I'm very excited to see what the new government in 2024 will have in.
Right. Have you met about Jokowi before?
No.
Would you like to see him?
Well, of course. I mean, he's like the one most important figure in Indonesia right now, and he really changed the country for the better, especially economic-wise. So, of course, it would be great to meet him.
I hope you have a chance to meet Pak Jokowi. Huh?
Maybe one day. Yeah.
By the way, if we talk about the democracy, we also see how the parliament work here, in terms of they have debates, something like that, freedom of speech. Have you seen the parliament member session in Senayan, in DPR or MPR?
Well, I've seen it on TV, of course, in the news, but I've never been there. No. I don't even know if it's public. Can you go there?
Yes, of course.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
No, I didn't. Because my Indonesian is not that good.
No, I mean, you can see the environment and the way they debate. Do you think is Indonesia already mature in doing the freedom of speech? Because everyone say that in Indonesia they're talking about democracy in USA, America, they mature in democracy. What do you think about Indonesia now?
Yeah, I mean, Indonesia has its own political culture. I was very surprised that Indonesia is very, very famous for being such a nice and friendly country, and Indonesians being such a nice and friendly people, and I mean, that's true. Maybe one of the nicest and most friendly people in the world, yeah. But the political culture can be, I mean, the social media community in Indonesia is known to be one of the roughest in the world. Yeah, but I mean, they have to find their own way of debating and discussing, and their own political culture. But I mean, if you look all over the world, there are many different cultures of debating in parliament.
Yeah.
And not all of them are as, well, let's say, behaved as maybe the Germans debate in parliament. So I think they will find their own, or they have already found their own debate, and probably it works.
Finally, the solution. And then, do you think is Indonesian young people, the youngster in Indonesia, also interested in politics and join the political party? What do you think about it?
Well, we do have a lot of young politicians in our network. We are also training young politicians from all different parties here in Indonesia, and of course you can see with regard to social media that there's a huge interest in politics also among the young. But I don't know if this always translates into being or becoming actively involved in politics. This is a challenge that not only Indonesia faces, but I think most countries are facing. So membership ratios in political youth organizations are in decline, not just in certain countries, but I think globally. So getting young people more involved into politics, that's a big challenge. That's also a challenge that Konrad Adenauer Stiftung is working on in Germany, but also in all our offices in all over the world. And we have special programs for young people who are either actively involved in politics or who are somehow involved in media or civil society or interested in politics. So that's a very important part of our work, and I think that's very important in order to promote democracy and to stabilize democratic systems.
What about young politicians in Europe, especially in your country, in Germany?
Well, we do have young politicians, although we have a majority of senior politicians, I would call them now, a little bit more diplomatically, because of the demography in Europe. I mean, societies are really growing old in Europe, so old people are becoming the majority of societies, so they are also becoming majority in each sphere of society, even especially in politics. Yeah. But there are young politicians in Germany. We are lucky to have a very strong political youth organizations, so the youth organizations of the political parties. So there's no lack of a new generation of politicians. And you can see in the German Bundestag that there are more and more young politicians coming.
Will you become a politician someday? If you come back 5 years later?
I hope not.
Why?
I'm more on the analytical side, and especially in Germany. If you want to become a politician, it's you have to start a party career, and maybe nothing for me.
Not interested yet?
Not yet. Maybe later. Maybe I become an old politician. Who knows that?
I'll see about it.